Philomythia podcast.
Here we are. Oh yes, again. Will you tell me what? I don't even know what episode.
Just
this
take
is
a guess.
anymore.
I know what episode this is, but I want you to take a guess.
10.
Yeah, that's right. Number
Episode 10.
And you were right because I listened to all the episodes, but you are correct that I found an old folder and drive from the first podcast that we did, and there were 8 episodes. And on episode 8, you're like, I think this is as far as we got last time. You are correct. Give this man a prize.
Oh man, I think that one day we should clip up that old podcast to give little people.
I haven't even listened to them.
It.
And I don't know. I think Paul has the full compiled thing because I only had my tracks.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't even have the full thing. Because remember, for some reason, like your track, because you recorded it really weird, it was all static on my computer for some reason, but not Paul's.
Yeah. That's weird. Because, we were using...
You didn't even have like your own computer. You didn't have...
nothing.
You were recording it very weird. It was a weird thing.
And I had to go downstairs into my garage to do it.
Yep.
Because at the time, I had a girlfriend, and
she was like, get out of the room. Get out of the room, you weirdo.
Yeah, whatever, though. Well, so episode 10 here, what we're doing today is kind of what I did for Eric a few episodes ago.
That's right.
As we record these, we're already in the future as our normal selves. So you're hearing these like weeks after we recorded them. So it's really, really hard to get our brains wrapped around the time dilation for when you hear this.
Yeah, we're about 5 episodes ahead. So we're 5 weeks ahead right now, as long as we keep to the schedule we've been doing.
Yeah.
So it was funny because we talked about, I think in
Dune.
Not even Dune, but 5 just dropped, and we talk about the latest D&D book being Wild Beyond Witchlight, when it's like,
that's funny.
The Dragon book just dropped, and by the time this comes out, something else will probably be out at that point. So that's just how it goes right now.
Yeah, it's super trippy. Especially when you guys talk to us about what we said, because you're like, hey, remember what you said 5 weeks ago? And I'm like,
maybe
if I listen to it. Yeah.
Right.
So that's pretty fun.
I have a little bit better knowledge on it just because I'll listen to every podcast a couple of times through as I'm like, because I'm adding compression. I'm making sure there's no pops or, making sure everything sounds good and there's no problems with the audio. So but even then people say things. I'm like, wait, what are they talking about? Oh yeah, we were talking about this. That's right. Okay. I see. So, but it's fun. Yeah, I love editing and doing that kind of stuff. That's like my happy place. I can do that shit for hours. It's so fun.
God, that's insane. That makes me, even the thought of it makes me go, ugh.
Well, it works out then. You don't have to worry about any of that shit.
That's right. I love that.
Yeah.
So we're going to do a one shot like we've done before.
Right.
And Eric is going to DM me, and I am going to fuck his world up.
Yep.
Or he's going to just kill me. I don't know what's going to happen, but we're going to air this over a few situations, and you'll hear how it goes down.
I love the way you just said that. We're going to air this over a few situations.
I don't know what it is. Every time I'm all fucked up about the episodes. So,
and we're experimenting with the format, and we probably will continue to do so because just finding cool ways to release content, I think, is fun. And it's interesting.
And we sorry, I'm sorry.
No, you're okay. Go ahead.
We want to encourage questions. People, if you like certain things, let us know. If you want to hear more about this or more about that, even the few things that people have asked now,
it's great.
I've been like, oh, cool. Yeah, we can do that. I like that idea.
Yeah, for sure.
So please
let us know. And if you don't like something, if you're like, hey, this is boring, or I don't enjoy actual play, for instance, if you don't like hearing us play a session, that's totally fine. The last actual play where Ian was DMing, we split into 2 parts just to make it a little bit more, and they both came out on the same week. But we might try that with this one again, like do the first part on Wednesday and do the next part on Friday or something. So feedback is appreciated. If you're like, no, that's dumb, I want to hear the whole thing in one go, or
Right.
I'd rather have actual play be just its own release thing instead of taking the place of the podcast. That stuff's good to know too. You know,
Yeah.
you don't have to be
And,
rude about it, but
Hopefully
know
we'll
that you
have
don't like
a
it.
like a Facebook or an Instagram or some
Mhm.
other social media up by now when you hear this that
Should be
you
up
can
by,
go there
by then. Yeah,
and say things to us, and we can go, oh yeah,
you can.
we'd love to do that. Maybe even a Discord server one day. I don't know.
Oh
Sounds
yeah,
like a
that's
lot.
on the agenda. I mean, if there's enough people, you know, who
Right.
are into it, you can always contact us at Philomythia, just like the podcast is spelled, at gmail.com. So Philomythia
This
at
is true.
gmail.com. You can email us and contact us that way too. So
Check the doobly-doo for all the other stuff because
yeah, I put all the
we
links
don't
in
know it right
there.
now.
We have a link tree and blah, 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 blah. So I want to kind of do a little preface on today's one shot so people are prepared for the left turns that could happen. So this
it.
is going to be a darker session. This is completely homebrewed. It's not taking place in Faerun, which is where the last one took place. This is just a world, and I haven't really fleshed the world out. It's just this one little pocket, kind of like a small indie movie, if you want. And there's the potential for Ian's character to die. It's not huge. I'm not trying to kill him, but depending upon what he does, depending upon what he does,
what I do.
yeah, he could get himself in a pickle. So I have things in place, but I can't predict what he's going to do, and I have no idea how it's going to go today.
And I could do nothing. Like he's spent so much time prepping for this.
I
Well, don't know
overplanned.
about so,
yeah,
but
I overplanned for sure.
I can't wait then to hear about the planning.
The
That's
planning,
gonna be fun.
yeah, you're going to be like, you're insane. I can't believe you
Yeah.
did all that. And also NPCs could die or could be hurt. So things are at risk. Ian's character, and we're going to have him describe his character in a little bit before we start the session proper. But he's walking into a situation that's already about to explode. So things have gotten really bad, and now tensions are about to break. So I kind of equated it to, you think about like a Clint Eastwood movie where he goes into like a town and there's the 2 gangs that hate each other, and he gets there just as like things pop off. It's kind of like that, but it's not a Clint Eastwood movie. This is going to be like dark fantasy. So just want to preface that. It's going to be a little darker, most likely. And so on that note, Ian, tell us about your character.
Oh, it's my turn. So I gotta open up my character sheet here, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
All right, here we go. So I imagine we are starting now.
We're starting the session, but I want to hear about your character before.
Yeah, I think it'll be
start
fun to like.
proper.
I'm gonna introduce myself, and then you kind of give us the intro to the whole thing. My name is Ursa Major. It's spelled
I have a question
different.
really quick.
Yeah.
When I saw Major, I was like, oh, okay, I don't know how he wants that pronounced. I was like, is it Mayor? That's really
Nope,
funny. If it's
Major.
Major. Okay.
Yeah.
Please continue.
Spelled Mayjore. Major. And I am a wild magic barbarian from the tribe Uruska.
That's cool.
Now, I made this name just now,
Nice.
and I want to
Should
spell
write
it
it
for
down.
you.
It's canon.
I want to spell it for you because we had this conversation last night when I was in control of a giant. So you're gonna spell Uruska. Urusk. That's it. Sorry, I keep saying Urusk. Okay, you hear that? Urusk.
Mm-hmm.
All right, here we go. UROOSKU.
Nice.
The
I was thinking a U with an umlaut, but you went for 2 O's. That was
Just
nice.
you don't. It's not ku. You just say the K, but it's the K. That's it. That's the U at the end.
It's good to know.
Like the B that I had in that guy's last name, the B.
So it's kind of like a K-U-H sound. K.
Right, but it's just K-U.
Yeah,
K.
K-U. Yep. Okay.
Ruska. Ruska.
And what's your background for your character?
My background.
Mm-hmm. Like, who is your character? Really, deep down inside.
Well, Ursa Major, the tribe he's from is these magic barbarians out in the wilderness. It's like a jungle-ish kind of situation. And when Ursa was born, he was born under kind of a bad omen.
Mm-hmm.
And his magic is wild. It doesn't work like the rest of the barbarians in his tribe. It's a little bit crazy. He doesn't have much control over it the way that the other clan does.
Mm-hmm.
And he's also a Goliath. So they're huge barbarians, and their jungle pushes right up against a mountain. So they're up in these mountains quite a bit. And let's talk a little bit about him. He's in his mid-20s. He's probably close to 8 feet tall. That's about right. Is it a little bit higher than that, do you think?
I mean, it's your character. That seems good to me.
Yeah, 8, a little bit more than 8, I'd say. He's got dark, not dark, they're piercing blue eyes.
Mm-hmm.
He's got kind of a little bit of a tan-colored skin, not too dark, not too light. It's kind of just right there. And he has kind of a mohawk that's like this shock of mohawk hair that kind of spikes up in clumps.
Nice.
And it's blonde. And yeah, that's Ursa Major. And he is investigating something going down at Cooper Downs, because as he's he was asked to leave. I guess I should go with that. He was asked to leave his tribe. He wasn't forced out, but when he was young, he was asked to leave. So him and his friend, it's a giant cat. It's not a tiger. It's not a lion. It's just this really big cat. It's his little friend that he's had for a while now, since he was a teenager. And now that he's in middle-aged 20s, the tribe is asking him to leave because his wild magic is just causing too many problems now.
Mm-hmm.
Now that he's gotten older, stronger, his magic it's becoming too much for them to deal with. So they're asking him politely to leave, so he did. So he's been wandering the world, and his attunement to magic is a little strange. He doesn't quite understand it because the wild, it's so elusive that he's become good at kind of sussing out problems. So he's almost become like this barbarian investigator, just kind of by accident. So he's just still kind of wandering. He loves to explore and kind of going where the tides take him. And it always seems to take him to investigating things. He just kind of stumbles into them. He doesn't even mean to. And I will so I'll just say that's the past. And I will let Eric introduce where we are and what's been going on.
Cool. I love that character. That's awesome.
I
love the idea of this kind of unlikely detective, just because of the way he, his situation, who he is.
And he's huge, too. This giant of a person. You're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
He does have tribal kind of paint that's part of his skin. Like it's part of a ritual they go through at this thing that kind of highlights their magic when they're very young, and it comes through in their tattoos. Kind of, it's cool. But they're not tattoos. They look like tattoos. They're just part of their skin. And his kind of shown through as this like light blue, silvery kind of streaks through his entire person.
Nice. What color is his skin? Because I know Goliaths can have stone-colored skin and stuff, right?
His is like he looks pretty like humanish. Okay. Like his is like a tan-colored skin.
Okay. Cool.
So yeah, his tribe is definitely not those because they're in that jungle right up
Mhm.
against the mountain. They're not ones that are in the cold climates with the up in the mountains. They're near mountains, but they're in the jungles, so their skin hasn't evolved to be like that. They just look kind of like tannish tribal people.
Giant tattooed motherfuckers. Just like,
Yeah, huge.
okay.
Huge.
All right. Love it. So with that under our belts, we're going to start the session proper. This may change, but for now, the name of this session is The Weight of Stone. It's the name of the session. And that is a clue. Just want to let you know. So
Sounds ominous.
it should sound ominous. Imagine, if you will, a rainy landscape. In this landscape are many trees, and everything is just drenched. And it's always darkly overcast, day or night. It's always kind of hazy. Obviously, it gets much darker at night. And in this kind of mystical landscape, there's a little city known as Cooper Downs. And Cooper Downs is kind of empty right now. All the men of the city, all the able-bodied men have gone south to fight in the Great War in this kingdom. And the running of the daily affairs and keeping the city going is now run by all the women and the elderly folk and some of the children. But a lot of the children have started to go feral, and they've created these street gangs in the city, and they're actually kind of dangerous. These kids are known to be vicious, and they have names like the Powder Kegs and the Shining Knives, very violent names. And when Ursa comes into the city, and again, it's always raining very hard. You get a lot of looks from passersby, and you start to notice that there are no men in this town. And even the guards at the gate were women. You saw maybe like an old man, maybe sleeping at his post, but a lot of women. And they look tough too. It's not like they're just weak. This seems like a hard place. And you heard some whispers just, in small townships and farms along your way to the city that this place is known to be cursed. There's a meanness here, or a shadow that kind of casts itself across the entire city. And so this is what you come into, and people are friendly enough. There are no taverns. They're kind of strange about indulging in alcohol. It's legal, but you have to go to these open air markets to get your alcohol, and there's no taverns. And so you stay at what are called boarding houses, which are certain families will open their doors according to the laws of hospitality to let you stay there for exchange for some work or maybe a little bit of coin or something like that. But that's not really the point. So it's different than other cities that you've maybe been to so far. And what direction did you come from to the city?
I imagine I probably came through just the main gate,
Okay.
like just wandered on the main path that most would travel, because that's just yeah. So I'm gonna never mind. You keep going.
Okay. So when you arrive here, you're soaked. And what is your familiar's name? One more time.
I call him her. I'm gonna go with her.
Okay.
I call her Little Bear,
Little
or
Bear.
Little One, or Cub. It's just a reference to small.
Okay.
And bear.
Okay.
Even though it's a cat.
So she is soaked and she looks miserable.
I'm gonna pat her on the head and look down and give her that look of I'm sorry. And I have my cloak kind of pulled up.
Right. Your cloak's soaked.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you have arrived just in time for what is known colloquially as the Day of the Dark Sun. And this is also an event this is an astrological event that happens from where you're from, but it might be thought of differently. So here, what happens is the sun never truly rises, but there's light. And so the locals think of it as a day where the spirits and demons are able to walk the earth, because the sun is not able to rise. And so they, at night, on the Day of the Dark Sun, that eve, they light these huge bonfires to bring the sun back. And there are those who believe that it's their act of lighting these fires that brings the sun back into it. So not everybody does, but it is a deeply held belief here that has been here for a long time. So you're just in time. You arrive a couple days before, but the day that our session takes place is the Day of the Dark Sun. That should actually be the name of the session. That's way cooler.
There you go.
I'm renaming
That's what it is then.
It's the Day of the Dark Sun.
And then like
Dun,
a little
dun,
semicolon, and it's the weight of stone.
And that just to confuse everybody. They're like, is this a sequel?
Right.
Is this? Nope. Just going for one of those Japanese titles, you know.
Yep, it's just
Hyphens,
crazy title.
colons.
Come on, it's fun.
So, so that's my little summary of the world. So kind of dark shadows, wet cobblestone, a sliver of light of like, you know, being outside, you see a little candlelight peek through a window down the street.
And there's no real stars above because it's cloudy.
Always overcast. Always.
Yeah. Ooh. Are we talking like pine trees like?
Yeah, so let me give you, and listeners, I will post, I like to use a lot of pictures to add flavor to my games, so I will post some of these. I have a lot of them, so I'll run out of room on the doobly-doo. But I will link to them and also credit the artist. So here's the first one, just to give you a feel of, maybe I should go to the right layer. Feel of the vibe.
Cool.
So misty and rainy, and there's trees. There are surrounding farms.
It's still loading.
Is it? Oh, this one's really big.
You keep talking though. Okay. It'll load up. You're fine.
So it's foggy and rainy somehow. As if kind of there's, you know, the temperature of the rain is hitting the ground and it's causing steam to rise or something. Some other vibes, just again, kind of dark streets. Almost a 17th or 1700s type of vibe.
Right. I'm digging it. All right.
Okay.
Now you're saying, so the day that we're starting, just to be clear, is I've been here for like a day or two, right?
A couple of days. Yeah. You've gotten to know Madam Gwen, who, it's her house that you're staying in. So you're staying at her
that's the
boarding
house I'm at.
Yeah. And there's just an extra room. Her husband is away at war, and so she is taking care of things and running everything in the household. And the older child, Kellen, he also is expected to help out, but he tends to sneak off sometimes. Okay. And nobody really knows where he goes. One thing I should say for the listeners, because they don't know, is this city, half the population is tiefling. And if you don't know what tieflings are, to kind of break out of the session and just talk about D&D for a second, tieflings are these creatures that kind of look half demon. So they can have red skin, they can have horns, and they're thought to have kind of a demonic influence. And you have other races like the Azamar, which are that, but for celestials, so they have celestial blood in them. So this adds fuel to the fire of the rumor that Cooper Downs is cursed somehow. And this will happen. You'll have children who have tiefling-like traits or full tiefling. They don't have to have tiefling parents. Just one of the kids will come out of the womb looking this way. So Kellen is one of those kids who looks about half. His skin is slightly mauve, so it's slightly red, like a deep red, and his eyes are yellow, and he has little horns. As he's going through puberty, he has some little horns that are popping out.
Sounds
and you
good.
notice kind of around his collar, he has a little copper pin of a skull on it.
Okay.
So that's just something he seems to always wear.
So now that how I want to start this is I want to open up.
One more thing. Sure. And this is just the flashback. So that's what's happening currently, but we're flashing back to a few days before you even got to town. And you're traveling in the across the landscape. And in the midst, it's starting to be rainy where you're at already. And in the midst of this rain, you suddenly receive a paper bird. So you hear this, and you look up and you just see this thing flapping, and suddenly it just kind of lands on your chest. And you're like,
grab it.
You don't really necessarily know what it is, but it's folded up origami style into like this little swan.
And look down at Cub and go, what the hell is this? I'm going to kind of inspect it a little bit and start unfolding it.
Okay.
Tell me what I'm seeing.
So you unfold it and you start to see text, and then you see just a little bit of kind of luminescent dust go kind of float up. And
it floats up. Okay.
Yeah, just kind of a little bit of almost like embers from a fire, but you can tell that this is arcane. So this is a magical note. It's magical in some way, shape, or form. And so these little magical ember like iotas of light just kind of float up and disappear.
Nice. I'm just going to look at it and read it now.
So it's very brief and terse, and it says, "Come to Cooper Downs, need help, big reward," is all it says.
Big reward. Well, we're going to need that, Cub, because I only got a little bit of money still.
Okay.
Just a tiny bit. And I imagine, we head our way to Cooper Down.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we discover that we have to get a boarding house. We just approach the first place. Things work a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Right? So we just approach the first house and we're like, are you a boarding house?
And honestly, when you go to the gate, the guards can tell that you're an outsider. And so they kind of give you the 411, like, hey, you're going to need to find a boarding house.
Right.
Here. So you get there just because they close their gates at night. And so you're getting there just as they're shutting the gates and locking up for the night. So you make it just in time.
With my big cat.
With your big cat.
I bet that's wild. And she's wet and I'm wet, I imagine. And they point us to Gwen Rivertree's home.
And they look down at your cat and they're like, you're not going to be able to bring that inside.
She goes with me.
Well, I'm just telling you, most boarders, most boarding houses, they don't really take kindly to that kind of thing. Just a bit of advice for you.
Well, we'll figure it out, I'm sure. It's not a big deal.
Okay. So here's the first monkey wrench. So we're going to just kind of play out you convincing Gwen to let your pet or your familiar stay with you. So
all right. So I knock on her door.
You knock on the door.
Knock.
And you see this door opens and kind of this warm light spills out into the dark, soggy night. And you see this fairly tall, about 6 foot, half-orc woman. She has like platinum white hair. And she's like, hold on, just a moment. Oh, what do we have here? Are you looking for a room?
Yeah, and I take my hood back so she can see what I look like.
Oh, you must be an outsider.
Yeah, they told me to come here because you don't have an inn. But they said you won't let my cat stay here. And I put my pat her on the head, and my cat looks up with the little sad cat face.
Oh, and she looks over and she's surprised. Oh, mercy. That's a big cat you got there.
She's my friend. She's been friends with me for 10, 12 years. She's very not trained, but she knows what is right and what is wrong.
Well, your kitty looks very nice, but like the guard said, I don't let animals into my house. I'm very sorry.
Well, I think that, is there anything we can do to change that? Because I will not let her stay outside.
Roll a persuasion check. Ooh. Okay, so one thing we're going to try to do is say the numbers we rolled. So what did you roll?
I rolled a 20.
So he rolled very high. And so plead your case to Gwen. Like, you're like, is there anything we can do?
Is there anything we can do? She's a person to me. She'll be quiet. She'll just sit and she'll get dry. You can charge me more if must, but she's a good friend. She is like a person. She's not an animal. She's a friend.
And as you're saying this, your bear cues into what you're doing, and she like hunches over and looks more pathetic and miserable and kind of goes, and you can see Gwen, her will starting to break, and she's like, oh, is she good with kids?
She should be just fine with kids.
Oh, all right. Come on in then.
All right. And I pat her on the head and I go, good. Go get warm.
And so you come in, and for how small it looks on the outside, it's actually, it's very roomy inside. It feels homey. There are couches, and she gives you a towel. She gives you some cloth to kind of soak up all the excess water, and she takes your cloak. And then you see her kids come in, and 2 of them are tiefling, 2 of them look human, and they all come in, and they are immediately curious about Bear. So
well, I'd imagine I'd have to like duck down super low to get into the house and then still kind of keep my head weird.
Yes.
Standing up in this place.
So that's true. You are a Goliath. So they come in and they see you and they're like, oh, and they kind of
whisper. And I go, hey, well now, children. Hello, children.
And then one of the kids Kellen, that we mentioned before, he kind of jumps in front and he says, whoa, don't hurt my siblings.
Fear not, my friend. I mean you no harm.
He says, you better not. And he pulls out a little knife and he kind of looks at you.
And I put my hands up and go, I surrender.
You better surrender. And then Gwen comes back in and she says, oh, Kellen, just stop that now. I've invited him in. He's our boarder. And he kind of gives you one more good look, kind of like the little dog that yips at you as you walk by a house. And then you finally get away and they kind of feel like, yeah, I told him. So he kind of like waits and he's like, okay, he's told you off good enough. And so you're able to work it out. The kids take to Bear.
Little Bear.
Yeah, Little Bear. And she seems to take to them. So she starts spending a lot of time in that big room. Now, this is a 2-story house. And so when you come in the door from the street, off to the left is the living area, and then straight up ahead are the stairs. So you go up the stairs, and then to the right again, and your room is at the top of the stairs.
It's very small.
Yeah,
it's very small.
It seems
but it will do.
Yeah,
it will do.
Yeah, and it's small it's roomy for what it looks like outside, but it's small even for humans.
Right.
So this is very small for you.
Crouched all down. I fit on the bed a little bit. So I'm just gonna, that's that first night. So now that we're starting, I'm going to pull the note out and I'm going to go to Gwen and go, excuse me.
Yes.
Do you know anyone that has the ability to send a magic note like this? This flew into me some time ago.
She kind of takes it and looks at it. I'm sorry. continue?
No, that's please look at this note. Tell me what you think.
So she looks at it and she kind of sniffs it, and she's like, "Goodness me, this is very nice paper. Our local magic user and dabbler is one known as the Wicker, and he lives just outside of town, and he is who we go to for our healing and potions and apothecary and that kind of thing. So he might know. I don't know that he would have access to paper that's this nice, though. So,
Well, this is a man I've heard of just from being in the open air markets. Just the name. So I think I will go see him today.
and you definitely will hear his name whispered. People will kind of, people talk about, speak his name. They kind of speak it hushed. Again, you feel like this community is a bit superstitious overall. Yeah. And so there's a little bit of that into the air.
All right.
Now, on maybe the second night you were there, you overheard the children, as you're heading to bed, you overheard the children talking about a green stone that glows. And kind of hushed tones, just, oh yeah, it's green. Oh yeah, and I heard that. Oh yeah, it's really bright. So just kind of little snippets. They're talking about some kind of stone that glows.
All right. So I'm going to get up for the day. I'm going to look down and go, Cub, come on. And I want to also, through a little flashback, as we're going to bed one of the nights, look at Cub and go, hey, going to have to get used to this water outside. I don't think it's going to stop. So put on a brave face. And I give her a little pat. Nice. So now we're in that morning. We're going to go talk to...
And she does not look happy to be going with you. Like she will obey you, but she's not terribly pleased about this going out into the nonstop rain. Yeah. So you have to call her a couple times, like, hey,
come on, we're going. It's time to go eat. We're leaving. Come on. And I snap my huge hand and go clack.
And she kind of jumps at that. Everybody does, like, oh, that was loud. And then she hops to it.
All right, so we're gonna go.
Let me show you this really quick.
Sure.
So here's the map for Cooper Downs.
Oh, beauty. This is nice.
So the map that I'm showing Ian, and I will post in the doobly-doo, is actually, I found this really cool site where you can have this algorithm do a random city creator. So it'll make these little small cities, and you can name the quarters and color code them. It's really cool. So I made one for Cooper Downs just to kind of get a sense of where things are.
Okay, where am I staying at?
So you're in Bonfire Hearth somewhere, so you're probably off in this area, somewhere here. And the open air market takes place in here. That's the biggest one. There are a few throughout the city.
I was going to say, should I just do a little X just to give a little...
Sure, you can do a little X there, for sure.
Right here? Is that good?
You're going to be a little farther in. This may not matter all that much, but...
I'm just giving it a small...
Sure, yeah.
Click here. Because if you share this, then we could show people...
Where you're at. Yeah, that's definitely true, for sure. And you've heard the Wicker is somewhere in South Wickershire, which is just outside of the southern gate. So he's said to live on a big hill in this house that's kind of built around a tree, I guess.
So out the South Wickershire gate?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I'm going to mark it right here just so that's the gate I need to go out.
Mm-hmm.
And the open air market, where is that I'm going to go? I'm going to go there first to get a little bit of food.
Mm-hmm. So it's in Bonfire Square, which is the center of town. And you've seen them. Somehow they figured out how to still light this bonfire amidst all the rain. So there's this huge makeshift pavilion over the center where they have this huge fire pit, and they're just, it's like they're getting ready for Burning Man in the sense of they're building this huge pile of wood to burn.
Right.
So
and that's the fire that brings the
serious.
sun back.
That's the fire that they believe will coax the
Right.
sun to come back. That'll give it strength to come back.
All right. Well, so I'm going to go to the place that I normally go to get food lately, just because I've only been there. What would you call that little booth?
So it's just a little kiosk. The kiosk owner's name is Sterling Larson, and he is a big burly man.
Cool.
Okay.
And I'm gonna.
Oh,
walk
I'm
up
sorry.
And go,
I'm sorry about this. He is a large troll with red skin. I forgot. And yellowing teeth and a big smile.
Is it a boy or a girl?
It is definitely a male troll, although sometimes it's hard to tell the difference if you're not a troll.
I'm gonna go. Hello, Sterling.
And he slowly looks up and he says, Ursa, good to see you. And he kind of nods his head slowly, and he has for a troll, he has a big friendly smile on his face. He's very friendly to him. We need to go back really quick. Something happens when you leave the house.
Sure.
Okay. Let me find the right list. So as you're leaving the house, kind of on the front step, because there's kind of some stairs that go up to the entrance of the house. So right on that landing, as you're leaving the house, and Gwen is seeing you out, so she's just saying goodbye, have a good day. You see a cloaked figure start to approach the house, and let me find the right list. And you hear this female voice kind of whispering out to Gwen. So you can hear her saying, Gwen, excuse me. Gwen.
So it doesn't appear to be hostile.
No, not hostile, but trying to keep things under wrap.
I'm gonna walk slowly, like I don't really it doesn't concern me, but I'm gonna keep my ears perked up.
Okay.
To see if I can hear.
Okay.
But I'm gonna slowly, as if I'm just kind of not quite fully awake, even though I am.
Okay. Perfect.
As just kind of, so they don't think I'm listening.
Sure. So as you're,
go ahead. Do you want a deception on that, or?
No, because it's raining and
cool.
They don't seem too concerned about you. Like you're the border.
Sweet.
So
you know what? I'm not even going to ask you. I'm going to wait unless you tell me.
Yeah.
That works for me.
That works great. And if I forget, that's on me.
Yep, that's on you.
So as this cloaked figure comes up to the door, you hear Gwen say, Portia, kind of disapprovingly a little bit, maybe. She doesn't necessarily like this Portia person very much. And then Portia kind of starts speaking very rapidly. She's like, Gwen, we have a serious problem. The mayor's daughter has been kidnapped. She is missing. Do you know anything? And Gwen's like, wait, what? Missing? Yes, just this very morning. She was kidnapped. Have you heard anything? No, I can't say that I have. Are you sure she's missing? You know she likes to run around with that wicker. No, she's gone. And so they keep whispering like this, and you're starting to get, if you continue on, you're getting just out of earshot now. So what would you like to do? Do you just want to continue on and go to the market, or do you want to try to hang around and eavesdrop more, or whatever else you want to do?
Well, as the kids say, I don't even remember what the word is. They say something about that. I'm going to clock that.
Mm-hmm.
You got me? I'm clocking that going, so someone's missing.
Someone's missing, yes.
And
so you can
I'll look down at
a little
Cub
pin on it?
Yeah, I'm going to look down at Cub, and she's looking up at me, and I'm going to give her the look and go, yes, this is... Get to this. So now that we're here with...
so you're going to continue on?
Yeah, I'm going to go. I'm with Sterling at this point. And I'm ruminating about this information.
We'll say that was a flashback, so you were thinking about the information you gained.
Right, that I just kind of... I'm just ruminating over it, and I go,
Right.
Sterling, I'm very low on funds, my friend. Is there? I just have some silver left. Can you feed me and my friend here for silver and give us a drink? And
No. If you are low on coin, it is on me today, my friend.
Thank you, Sterling. If there's, I will pay it in any way I can in the future, my friend. My word on it.
If you find work, then you can pay me back.
Thank you. I will, most assuredly, because I
Yes.
think I have a clue, my friend.
Clue?
Remember the note I showed you days ago?
Yes.
Well, do you know the mayor's daughter's name?
It starts with a T. A T.
T, huh?
Tyra.
Tyra.
Tyra is her name, yes. Lovely woman. Yes.
I hear, is it true she likes to hang out with the Wicker?
They say that, but I don't know if it's true. That Wicker is bad news.
Isn't he the healer?
Yes, but he is
he's-
not a good person.
All right. Well, I thank you, Sterling, so much for the food and the drink. And as soon as I have, yes.
And he kind of
Sterling.
comes really close to you, and he says, "Be careful around the Wicker."
Thank you, Sterling. I
And
appreciate it.
so he goes back to kind of just seeming nonchalant. So you're like, this Sterling guy might be sharper than he lets on. Like he's good at kind of playing off. And so he gives you a big bowl of stew, like hearty stew, and this really hard bread that soaks up all the liquids really well. And then he gives Little Bear or Little Cub a big fat raw steak of some kind of
Yes.
meat. So
we don't know what it is.
We don't know what it is. You don't ask. It's delicious. So you both
exactly.
You don't go anywhere else
care.
because Sterling's got the digs, so to speak.
Well, I liked that he was a troll when
Mhm.
I approached. I
Mhm.
was quite fascinated by this. I've only met a few trolls, and that was at the end of my axe.
Yes.
Yes. So, thank you, Sterling. I appreciate
Yes.
the drink, the food.
Yes.
Say thank you, Cub. Good. A little pat on her head.
So, I'm going to roll on a table now.
Sounds good. Just to let you know what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
After we get up, we're just going to head the direction of where we have heard the Wicker is located.
Cool. That sounds great. So, as you're talking and you're eating your food, so it takes you a little bit of time.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, marking something.
You're good.
You hear other people talking. So you're kind of hearing people gossiping and talking through things. And you hear, and again, it's mainly women and like older people. And so you hear these two ladies talking about some gossip. And one lady one, we'll call her Meredith and Persephone.
Nice.
Meredith leans over to Persephone and she says, "You know, the mayor has been replaced by a demon prince that will one day reveal himself on Dark Sunday." And Persephone goes, "Oh, yes, this is true."
That's it.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's just I'm sure there was more conversation, but that's what I gleaned.
Again, it's kind of like you heard
Right.
the cloaked figure at the steps. you're kind of hearing little wisps of conversation. If you want to try to listen more and kind of cue in on it, that's fine.
I'm good with that little piece. I just want the listeners to know right now. I'm going to break out of this and go. I have like a page of notes already as a player, because I know Eric Blood, and he's laying little gold nuggets everywhere. And if I don't write it down, I will not remember it. And I'm going to be like, I don't know what to do. Oh, if you would have wrote that down.
Right.
Anyway, back in. Here we go.
And then there one more thing you heard too. Was you hear these two kids being like, yeah, the bonfires are the only things keeping the sun coming back year after year. So you're hearing again this reinforcement of this belief that Coober Downs is very important to bringing the sun back, apparently.
And I want to state how I feel about that as a character.
Yes, please do.
I think my character thinks that's insane.
Okay.
Because the sun god always comes back. That's insane. Why would the sun god not come back with your bonfire? He always comes. He's on the sun god and the moon goddess are always going to be there. That's so to him, he's just like burning a fire to bring them. What is wrong with you people?
Love it.
So he thinks that it's absurd.
Okay.
But he also knows people's beliefs because he's been through a few places and knows that not everyone thinks like him. So he's learned, keep my mouth shut or else it's problems.
Maybe you've gotten in trouble.
When I was younger. So now that I'm older, I'm like, bonfire.
Right.
Nice.
Now, I have a question for you.
Sure.
What does Ursa believe happens on the day of the dark sun, or whatever he calls it?
That is the day that the sun and the moon get to finally be together, because they're constantly chasing each other. It's a love affair.
So like their honeymoon.
They find it's just that small part of when that happens, they finally get to be together, but then they're separated again by another higher god that keeps them chasing.
Okay, cool. I like that. That's cool. So hearing this bonfire thing, you're like, no, the sun's just hanging out with this lady moon, and
and I'm just like, y'all are crazy.
Yeah,
even though what I think is fucking crazy.
Well, again, this is fantasy, so you can say that like either you deeply believe this or you've seen evidence.
Oh, he believes it. He was raised as this tribal being that's very the gods and the sway of the world and the animals and everything, and the circle of life is very a big deal to this character.
Yeah, love it. Okay, so there you go, emerging gameplay right there. Again, for the rumors and everything, for the listeners, Ian probably already knows this, but I am rolling on a random table that I made, so there's not specific information that I'm intending to give Ian at certain times for things. So I'm making it more, more volatile and emergent. So you start heading towards... I'm going to stand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to finish my meal, drink my thing, tell Sterling that I'll see him later because he's my guy. He's who I get food from. And he's the one that I wanted, because there's carts everywhere. In this area, because it's basically a big thing, and I was like, he stood out to me because there's a lot of girls, and it's a troll, and I'm weird, he is weird. I was like, let's go talk to that man.
He probably makes you feel less giant too, because he's a little bigger than you, so you don't just feel towering over every single person. So he's
exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, even though that's how I feel everywhere is huge.
Right. So you pack up. It's a delicious meal. It's warming, so you feel warmed on the inside, so you can fight this cold rain, which is especially cold today. Like it's got an icy bite to it. And you're packing up and you're going, and as you're leaving the market to head south to the South Wickershire Gate, and I tried to find like an old English name, and I was like, that sounds like someplace in England, so that's why I named it that. But the Wicker Man, you've heard that this is traditionally where, or the Wicker rather, this is where they always are. Like there's a tradition to the town healer living in a certain spot, probably before the city was a city. So it's an old tradition. As you're making your way down south, you see a figure.
Way down south.
You see a figure run across the road, and you can tell distinctly that it's Kellen, and he doesn't notice you. So he kind of runs across your path about 20 feet ahead of you. It's drenching rain, and you just see tick, 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 and you're like, wait a minute.
I'm going to go, Cub, go follow him.
Okay, so Cub, you're going to have Cub go follow him?
Yeah, I'm going to say, Cub, go check that out. Stay hidden. Stay quiet. Make sure nothing happens to him.
Okay, so Cub is like, brrr, and she pads off into the rain. And again, the rain is obscuring perception. If you do something based on sound, I might give you disadvantage because the rain is going the whole time. So you've got this blanket of white noise coating everything sonically right now. So Cub is going to check out what Kellen is doing. Are you continuing on?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to find. Sorry.
You're okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna since Cub, sorry everybody, that was a long silence. I was contemplating. I'm going to go ahead, you know what? I'm going to follow along a little bit behind Cub until if there's an area where they walk up to and I can't get through it because I'm big, then I'm going to try and see if there's a way around. Yeah. And I'm more watching Cub because Cub will be able to track easily.
Right.
And I can watch Cub pretty easily because I know her.
Okay. Are you trying to be stealthy right now?
I'm trying to pass unnoticed, but it's not like a crazy stealth. So it's more of a passing kind of like,
sure,
you know, I'm just not being like, I'm trying to stay unnoticed, but not hidden.
Okay. Two things I forgot to say at the beginning is 2 homebrew rules I'm letting Ian use is the healing surge. So as a bonus action, he can use some hit dice to get some hit points back. So if he gets in a tight spot, he has a way to heal himself, kind of video game style a little bit. We talked about that before, like Ghost of Tsushima has a similar mechanic. And also going all in. So and it doesn't have to be in combat, but it makes the most sense. Ian can use his movement, his action, and his bonus action to do something that might otherwise break the rules a little bit. So just to let you know, listeners, he might say some things, and you might, if you know anything about D&D, you might be like, wait, what? You can't do that. What? It's a homebrew rule. That's why. Okay. Give me a stealth check. Perfect. So he rolled a 19, so that's great. So because of the rain, it's actually working to your advantage. And you're able to use that as cover. And it's also dark and overcast, even though it's late morning. So all that combined gives you a nice kind of cover of stealth right now.
Cool.
So,
so as we're kind of stalking at the moment, I want to use something that is not necessarily it's usually, I don't know if it's really used in combat or what, but it's called magic awareness. And it's basically, as an action, I can open my awareness to the presence of concentrated magic. So I can tell the location of spell or magic item within 60 feet of me.
Okay.
But it doesn't, if it's like behind total cover and like crazy hidden, I don't really, it's not crazy. It doesn't like pick it off very much. It's super light.
Sure.
And I can only use it a certain amount of times.
Okay.
I can use it 3 times.
Sure.
But I
For a
want to
long rest, is it something like that?
right, exactly. Okay. So
yeah, that's fine. You can totally use that for sure.
So I want to just kind of open it, and it lasts for about 60 seconds.
Okay.
So I'm just going to use it as I'm first kind of stalking with Cub.
Okay. And do you roll anything, or you just it automatically works?
It automatically works.
You get this, and is there any special way that you detect magic if there's something around? Is it just items, or it's any kind of source of the arcane?
Spell, right? Item, anything that has concentrated magic.
Okay. So, does it come up as smells to you? Do you see something? How do you experience this ability?
I want to say it's almost like a Spider-Man spider sense. It's like an internal tug. It's like a presence that it's like a sixth sense. Okay. Almost like I can feel it in the air and see it, but it's not actually visual.
Okay, so as you open your senses up to the arcane, you suddenly get this heavy sense of dark gravity coming from Kellen himself, and the hairs stand up on the back of your neck, and you get this kind of sick feeling in your stomach.
All right.
It's a little overwhelming because you didn't expect it to come from the kid.
Right. Well, I'm going to just use that to hang back a little bit and keep an eye on where he kind of like stops moving.
Okay.
Or if he just keeps moving, keep following it, keep watching Cub, and we'll play that out.
Sounds good. Let's have Cub do a stealth check. I'll let you roll for it if you want, or I can do it.
Sure, I'll pull her up.
Cool.
I'm just going to use that one, and that's there it is right there. Boom.
Nice. So she rolled a 13. She's a little waterlogged right now, so she's not having a great time being stealthy, but she still has enough cover to get through. So it's a little rough. It's rough going as you're tracking him, and you track him through this district called the Brine Decks. And there are signs, they're old, but that kind of announce when you go into a new district. So you, as long as you can read common, you can see what's going on.
I can read common.
Okay. So, and you get to the edge of the Brine Decks, and you're heading essentially west now through the city, and there's a river that runs through a part of the city. It's a fairly sizable part.
Oh, I see that. Okay, yeah.
Right here. And you see him jump into the river and start to swim across. And it seems like he shouldn't be able to do that because the current is pretty strong right now. There are some boats in the lake here and at the actual harbor. So there's a lake to the south of the city, and there's a tributary that runs through the city that comes out of the lake. But there's no boats right where you're following him. So he goes over to what's called the Okie Knockers. That's a small district, and you're not sure why it's called that. So he jumps in and starts swimming, and you're like, okay.
Well, and I also I'm imagining, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I imagine Cub stops and is like, no.
She's like, okay. Yeah, she kind of waits, and she does that thing that dogs do where they kind of wait looking at you because they don't want to do the thing. They're like, are you going to make me do it? Really?
Right. And I'm going to look down at her and go, well, you're already wet.
That's all you say?
Yeah, and I look at her, and then I look across the shore, and I look at her, and I go, I'll go in too. And I just start wading in to try. Well, I'm going to look at it. Because I'm a big person, would I be able to walk through it pretty easily?
As far as like how deep the river is?
How deep and how fast, yeah.
It's bigger. It's deeper than you are tall. Let's just say that. It's a big river.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm going to then not do that.
Okay.
That was not a good. That kid just swam right across it like it wasn't shit.
Wasn't shit. Yeah.
Wasn't shit, you fucking
It was off-putting, and you had this weird dark magic presence kind of oozing
You have to like
off him.
kill fucking kids in this.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
This demon child. He's actually not a kid. He's just in a child's body. You murderous son of a bitch. Anyway, so
Now,
how many?
give me a perception check
Sure, man.
as you're looking over there. And you're kind of checking the area out anyways. Oh, man.
Ooh,
Great.
that's a crit. That's a crit. I rolled a 20. It ends up with a 23. Now, I don't know if not everyone plays ability checks and rolls like this as crit does something.
I'm just going to say you get a little more information than normal. Like it's not like a critical strike in combat, but it does give you a little extra. So here's what the extra is you're kind of looking around, and then suddenly Cub's ears perk up and she chuffs. And you see across the river, almost out of view, actually first you hear yelling of other kids. And as you kind of peer into the darkness, you see a bunch of silhouettes, and you see that someone is being chased across rooftops. And it sounds like they're all kids. It sounds like one of these gangs. And they're chasing somebody, and this other silhouette is booking it. Like they are running really fast and really gracefully, like they're making their way through things.
How far away is that bridge from me to cross the river?
This bridge right here.
Yeah.
We'll say, it'll probably take you about 10 minutes to get to the bridge and across, something like that, to get back up there. It took you probably 15 with the stalking and everything to get down to where you are now from Bonfire Square. He's thinking.
I'm not. Is the current fast? It looks fast. Just from what you said, that kid crossed it and it was not safe.
Yeah, that's why you noticed it, because it's like, ooh, that's a fast moving river. How is he just going straight across? Like, what's happening here?
I'm not fucking with that shit. I'm just gonna. I'm not. My character knows his limitations, and there's no way he's getting on roofs and jumping around on them because he's huge. There's no way he's just gonna clock it and be like, I think that's that kid.
That's fine. Yeah.
I don't have anything else to do about that. I'm gonna go.
It's your life.
Look down at Cub and go, well, we tried. Let's go. And we're gonna go back to what we were gonna do, and let's walk out and look for the wicker.
As soon as you say, well, she turns around and starts going the other way. Like she doesn't wait. She's like, fuck this. I'm done. Let's go. Let's get on with this.
So yeah, we're going to we're just going to mosey on until we find the wicker.
Okay.
Situation.
You make it through the city. You probably get turned around a little bit. You can roll to resist that if you want, just because you haven't been in kind of the deep alleys of the city or the suburbs very much. So you come through, you make it to South Wickershire Gate, and it's open. Again, you're very soaked and you're starting to feel a little bit cold now. And you get outside the city limits without incident. Now, you know that from the city gate, it's kind of southeast to Wickershire Hill, where the wicker is supposed to be.
All right. I would like to ask the DM if I can pull kind of a flashbacky move right now.
Sure, let's do this. So we're kind of going to do some Blades in the Dark mechanics right now.
I'd like to.
In a little bit.
I'd like to go back and see and have a conversation with Gwen before I left initially.
Sure.
And say, hey, Gwen, do you have anything that might keep the rain off of me a little bit more than this cloak I have? Or is there a place I could purchase one? I'm very broke at the moment. I can offer you any type of work to help compensate you, and as soon as I can pay you for further than what I've already paid you with my remaining coin, is there a place where I could find something of that to use, or maybe you have one to borrow?
And she kind of looks off as if she's thinking deeply, and she's like, I have some firewood in the back that needs hauling, and I just happen to have a tarpaulin that you can use. So she goes and she brings back kind of this waxed seal skin. So it's very heavy, but it's completely rainproof. They put like wax and tar and things to just slough the rain off that you have.
Cool. I want to say that I've been wearing that throughout this day. And if she needed me to haul firewood, we can...
she doesn't need it right this instant. So it's just something like, hey, do this for me, in the next little bit. I was going to
say we could roll for something, and I did it before breakfast, before I ate, and we could just roll something.
Totally up to you. Yeah, if you want to roll for it. Give me athletics.
Athletics, see how well I did with it?
Yeah, how long it took you, essentially.
That works.
Okay, so
I rolled a 10.
It took just a little longer than you would think because you're good at lifting things. I would assume your strength's pretty high.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so you're Goliath, but because of the wet and the rain and the sogginess, it just takes you a little longer. You get it done, but you get a late start to your day because of it.
Cool.
Okay, great. So one thing I am going to do for this, I thought this would be fun, is we're going to do a little bit of resource management per scene. So if you do certain things, you kind of build up kind of like stress and Blades in the Dark just for that scene.
Right.
And then if you build up too much in a scene, bad things happen to you, basically. Like it gets a little worse for you. So I just want you to take, we'll just call it harm for now, like temporary harm. You can put it in temporary hit points. Just take 2 right now. You don't want to get up to 10. And then as soon as we start a new scene, it resets.
Cool.
Okay, so you make it out. You've got you're relatively dry. Your feet are definitely not dry, but you can cover up with this heavy, it's not a cloak. So it's more like having a blanket around you where you kind of have to hold it in place for it to work. And your familiar looks disapprovingly at you because she is soaked.
Yeah, I know. I knew she was gonna, and I'm gonna look at her and go, "What? You think he could just wear this? Huh? I could. We'll try. I mean, do you want to wear the cloak? It gets wet."
And she just kind of looks at you and then just like trots forward. If she could speak, she'd be like, "This motherfucker." Like
that's right. And he's just gonna have that kind of like shit. He's just gonna be like, just kind of thinks it's funny because of all the situations where she has the upper hand. Always. This is one of those moments where he's like, funny.
Right.
So yeah, we're going wherever you said we needed to go for this wicker. We're going right there. We're going straight to it.
Okay. So you make your way down south of the city, and you're starting to get close to this lake, and it's larger than it appears from the road, which is about half a mile off, we're going to say, for this. And as you get into here, as you get further south, deeper south, big copse of trees start to pop up, and it starts to turn into forest. And pretty soon you're you're in deep forest. Suddenly it just, 1 minute it's like clear and you're fine. And then you get to a certain point and you're just surrounded by trees. We're going to go back to the main page.
Cool.
So that I can show you the things. So you kind of come up this lip, and before you is a house that looks pretty old.
Oh, nice.
Lots of trinkets hanging in the trees. This looks lived in. And you know that the Wicker's house, no surprise it has Wicker in the name, it's called the House of Wicker. You were like, does that mean it's made out of wicker? No, it's not. But it is the place where the title holder of Wicker resides.
Right.
And there is a log bridge that kind of the original bridge, whatever was there, broke away a long time ago, and so the Wicker or help, whoever they hired to help has kind of laid this dead log across as a makeshift bridge.
And I am here at this log bridge, yes.
You're like right basically where the picture shows you as. Like,
Cool.
That's where your perspective is.
I'm going to look down at Cub and go, shit. And I'm going to go up to it. And I'm going to step on it a little and test my weight on it a bit, looking at it.
Okay. So you put your weight on it and you start to put more weight, slowly, and you can hear it kind of squeaking and settling a little bit. It kind of settles, and then it seems firm.
Cool.
I mean, it's still a log that's rounded, so it's
Right.
not a flat surface.
I'm going to look at Cub and go, well, here we go.
Okay.
And just start walking across.
And it actually is really easy. You make it across, no problem.
Sweet. And then I'm gonna look back at her. Is she crossing yet?
Yeah, again, she seems to feel a little more wary as you've gotten closer to the Wicker's house. She seems to be a bit trepidatious. Again, she's kind of doing that thing where they look on, like dogs will do this, where they look under their brow when they're afraid. So
Right.
she's got her head pointed down a little bit, and she's just grumbling. She does this a lot because Cub thinks that she can speak. So since she's a big cat, she doesn't really meow, but she's always kind of like... So she kind of complains to herself a lot.
And I feel like he would respond to her not even knowing what she's saying. And it's probably
Right.
not what he thinks it is.
Right. So give me
He's
an
like-
example.
So as she does that right now, he's going to go, yes, it is very wet out here. Yeah, I agree. No, I don't think so.
Nice. So full R2D2 mode, huh?
Yeah, just
Nice.
you have no idea what they're saying, but you're
Right.
responding.
Right.
So
Perfect.
let's go.
Okay, so you make it across.
I'm going to walk up to the door.
Okay. And you knock on it.
Yeah, I'm going to try and do it lightly because I'm big. I'm going to go tip, tip, tip.
Okay. Now pause 2 seconds. I'm gonna
Oh.
leave that there really quick. Let me look at my notes. There he is. So from behind you, I jumped the gun on showing you the picture, but from behind you, you hear a raspy old voice that says, "That's far enough."
I'm going to just freeze. All right.
Who are you and what are you doing here?
Well, someone. My name is Ursa, and this here is Little.
Stop. No
Yes?
sudden movements.
All right. I heard this is where the Wicker is, and you're a healer, and I've other questions. That's really about it. I'm new here, and this is just a place I've heard about a few times now, so I'm here.
And he's silent for a little bit. And then he says, "Turn around slowly."
I'll slowly turn around.
And you see pretty much what's on the picture, but I'm going to describe it for our listeners. So you see an elderly man. He seems to stand fairly tall, like 6'5", and he's got all kinds of wound together branches and brambles and thorns that resembles like some kind of wicker art installation. And his hair is all tangled up in it, and he has this kind of... And this almost looks grown. His staff looks like it was grown from roots, and everything has this quality of old and gnarled to it. So it's that kind of feeling, very aged and ancient.
Nice.
And he looks at you, and he kind of tilts his head and says, "You're not from around here."
No. I'm not. And I've been told you're probably the only one that could have sent me this message. And I slowly go, can I show you the message?
Look, I don't have a lot of time. I'm very busy.
Oh, yes.
Let me see
Good.
your message.
But what are you busy doing?
And you can tell that he is getting agitated quick. Like he seems kind of distracted and unhappy that you're here.
I feel hesitant, sir, to show you this message if you're going to be a frustrated one.
Look, you're on my property. You're not from here. Why should I trust you?
You don't have to trust me, but I've done nothing for you to not trust me.
Except trespass on my property.
But they say that you're the healer. Isn't this where people come?
Do you need healing?
Yes.
What do you need healing with? You look strong.
It's cold out here. It's very cold.
Oh, I
Can
see.
You
You want to come into my house? Let me see the message. And he kind of hobbles up, and he's chuffing. It's like,
Well, it's gonna get ruined out here. We must go inside. It's paper.
He's like, fine. And he pushes past you and goes into the, walks into the main room. And it's kind of this, it's actually really nice and warm. Everything, again, kind of has this woven feel to it. So the wood doesn't seem cut and into planks and then placed in the floor. It just seems kind of like trees. Somehow he got the trees to agree to grow in this shape. And again, maybe it wasn't him. This house seems really old. Really, really old. Give me a perception check.
Rolling.
Okay.
14.
So you can see that he kind of keeps, he's kind of fidgety, and he keeps touching kind of the side. He has a belt with some pouches. He's got a robe, like a tabard over top, but his underrobe, he has a belt kind of keeping it in place, and he keeps putting his hand down to his right side as he's kind of dealing with you, and he's mumbling under his breath. So he's waiting for you to hand him the letter. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm gonna, as I'm slowly I pull it out and I'm undoing it. So I'm gonna go, do you need help? Are you in need of assistance, my friend? You look like you're troubled. And then I slowly hand it to him as I say that last line.
And he looks at you, and he snatches the note from you, and he says, I'm fine. And he snaps the note out, like, he reads it, and he reads the note verbatim, essentially like what it says. And I'm trying to remember what it said. Basically come to Cooper Downs, need help, big reward. So he's like, Come to Cooper Downs, need help, big reward. Well, this is just terribly written. And he hands it back to you. So what, you want to know if I sent it to you, do you?
Well,
is that what you want to know?
Yeah, did you?
No, I would never use paper this way. This is blasphemy.
And I'm going to take the note back and go, well, thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time. Now, I'm very busy.
I'm confused here, sir. You seem agitated. Is there something you'd like to...
Yes, there's a stranger in my home. Now, I want you to give me another perception check.
I rolled a 19.
So as you're like, you seem very agitated, he's trying to kind of shoo you out of his house, and you hear a woman's voice coming from a back room, and she says, Gemma, they're here.
And I'm going to look at him and go, who's here?
And he says, shit. And he pushes past you, and he opens the door to look out.
And I will look out with him. I'll follow him and duck down with my huge frame and look out where he's looking and go, what is it?
This is so funny. This is how this adventure is going. So you look out, and again, it is dark. It's raining. It's dark enough that he has the fire lit inside, like you're using candlelight. You look out, and at first you don't see anything, and then you start to see some shadows moving. And you're like, wait, what's casting the shadow? You realize there are shadows moving by themselves, and they look kind of like the shadows of children.
Great. And I'm going to look down at the old guy and go, I'm going to look down at him and go, what the fuck is happening right now?
And he says, the demons, they're here. And I want you to roll for initiative.
You sons of a bitch. All right. For initiative, which is the roll that determines the order in which we play, I rolled a 19.
Nice.
That's a good initiative, everybody. If you didn't know.
It's good.
It's super good. All right. I know it's my turn, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've been excited to do this now for ever since I made this character. I'm going to do my rage. I'm going to go, bah! I'm going to,
nice.
Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull my axe out and look deep inside myself. And I hear the call of the eagle.
Beautiful.
The bear and the tiger. I hear them all inside. And now I get to roll something because I'm a wild magic barbarian. So when I rage, a wild surge goes off. And I roll a d8, and we determine what happens from that. So I rolled a 2. So I'm going to look at the table.
What did you get?
This one sucks. You teleport up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space you can see. Until your rage ends, you can use this effect again on each of your turns as a bonus action.
I mean, if you can control that, that's pretty cool.
Right. So the first thing that happens is I rage and I instantly get a teleport 30 feet.
That's a really interesting spin on raging.
Yeah. And I also have all the raging of the barbarian. So all of a sudden I go, bloop. I appear right here. And since raging is a bonus action, I'm going to pull my axe out, my great axe, and just bring it down upon whatever this black child demon thing looking is. All right, so I'm going to roll with my rage. Great axe. 25 to hit.
So you cut. Do you want to describe how you do this?
Oh, I use a great axe. So it's just this giant two-handed axe. And I just teleport, and I wasn't realizing that was going to happen due to my wild magic. I just was like, rage, bloop, and then appeared next and was like, oh shit. And then just dropped just an overhand swing, plow, right onto its head.
So you literally cut the shadow in half, and you kind of hear this like, as it fades away. And yeah.
Now, I believe, and I'm going to play this how I would imagine, since my attack action, I get a multi-attack, right? Since I have a second attack. So in my head, I don't know if I can actually move and then attack again since it's an action.
As far as I know, you can do that, and we're just going to allow it for this session.
Sounds good, because I had a plan if it didn't.
Okay.
So then I'll just step forward and give my other attack on this other creature of badness. Swing-a-ding-ding. I rolled a 21 to hit.
Okay, how do you do this?
Same thing. I go overhand strike, step forward, overhand strike.
And these ones, again, you cut through it really easily, and it just kind of like it's like you're cutting like air in half. Like there's no resistance, and it suddenly just fades out.
I clock that, as the kids say.
And then this one over here is like, and as it's screeching, you notice that other shadows start to pop kind of into the light where you can see them on both sides of you. So you're starting to feel surrounded on all sides by these shadow children. Okay, is that your turn?
Yeah, that's my turn.
So the wicker comes out and like steps on to his porch, and he starts to kind of yell. He's like, "Arr, arr, arr," and he makes kind of some arcane animal noises, and he pushes his hands out, and suddenly this huge wall of fire this way. So it just shoots from about where you're at and blocks off the entire house on the north side. Right there.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And then in the back where you heard that woman's voice, you can hear struggling and fighting. It's really loud, and you can hear like furniture being knocked over and like things breaking. And just the woman screaming, "Rah!" And boom, boom, crack. And do you want your cat to just go on your turn?
Sure.
So I'm going to let you control her for the sake of brevity in combat right now. So.
She's going to go towards the noise.
Okay.
Is it this way?
Yes. So let me set this up.
Oh, no.
So let me pull up a few pictures on here to show you what's going on. So the first thing you see when you come in is this deeply scarred man who, to the tiger's eyes, looks like bad news. And he is attacking this tiefling woman who's screaming out and giving as good as she gets. So she is like she's fighting back. And he seems to be trying to grab her and pull her through. There's a door right here pulling her through this way.
Oh, well, that tiger's going to see that situation and definitely go after the bad guy right there.
Okay. Do it.
So she runs up and gives him the what for. Let's pull up her character sheet. Tiger bite. She's going to give him the claw. Wait, the tiger has that. Target must. Oh, sweet. That'll work because she's already moved into here. So she's moved 20 feet. So she's attacking you with her. What is it I have to use? I'm using pounce. Claw attack is what I have to use.
Is that where they have to make a save too?
Yep. 15. Does that hit?
Yeah. So that just barely hits.
So you have to make a strength saving throw.
Okay. 13.
That is the DC 13.
So he's able to withstand you. So you claw him, but he stays standing.
Cool. I'm going to roll damage.
Okay.
8 slashing.
8 slashing. And as you slash into it, where does the tiger slash
it just runs in and just gives just a good swipe right across the chest and arm, like shoulder.
So he kind of steps back in surprise, but underneath he's not bleeding, but kind of this golden ichor starts to dribble out. And he kind of looks down, and then he looks up at the tiger, and he starts to give this too wide grin and get this maniacal look in his eye.
All right.
And now it is Ursa's turn. Once again, round 2.
Oh, round 2. Ursa is going to use his bonus action to teleport to here.
Mm-hmm.
Move to here. Clocking the situation.
And describe what you're doing right now. What is Ursa doing?
So as Ursa sees the wall of flame go up,
mm-hmm.
he understands, okay, this dude, he knows what's up out here. Where is Cub?
Mm-hmm.
Runs back to find Cub, sees Cub attacking this dude, and is just throwing a javelin at the dude.
Okay. And you come around the corner just as he's like making this crazy face, and his smile's going really big, and he's looking less and less human as the seconds tick by.
Now, I only have a handful of these javelins, so 17 hit.
That is a hit.
That is 11.
All right, so you throw this javelin, at this figure that's looking less and less human. Its skin is starting to slough off, and just as it reveals its true form, the javelin just sticks right into its torso. So just right up in its upper pectoral and just goes brrrr. So it sticks in him. It does the damage, but he just sits there. And in the place of the man is this large, hulking, kind of hyena-like demonic figure. You can feel the dark energy oozing off this creature. And gives a large chuckle.
So I get to take the turn of Cub again now, right?
Mm-hmm. Let me switch this out. Yes, it's Cub's turn.
So Cub is going to take the attack of opportunity and move back.
Okay. So the large monstrous creature,
Ooh, that's a hit.
goes in and bites at you with its very kind of gaping maw and too many teeth. Let's see. It does. Okay, I don't know why I didn't roll damage on that, but we won't worry about it.
Oh.
So it does 8 piercing damage. Oh, it just, no, it didn't. Okay, so yeah, 8 damage.
Cool.
So it just bites into its side. Yeah.
Damage accounted for.
All right, from outside, you hear a lot of you hear Wicker yelling, "Ah!" And you kind of hear the explosions of what are obviously spells, like he's attacking them, and you don't see any shadows coming into the room, and this creature kind of steps out and gets all big and hisses, and then jumps out, like just busts through the door and starts running down the path. And the tiefling woman slashes at him but misses as he runs out.
But he's got a javelin sticking out of him, right?
With the javelin sticking out of him, and you are now out of combat.
Oh, even from out front?
Yeah. Well, you don't know what's going on up front, but it seems to have gotten silent all of a sudden.
I'm definitely gonna use my little thing and teleport over there.
To the front?
Over to here. Yep.
Okay. You come out and all the shadows are gone, and Wicker's just standing there breathing hard. And he's like, "They left."
Yeah, something tried to grab that lady in here.
What?
Some monster.
And he rushes back into that back room, which is obviously some kind of bedroom, which is now heavily messed up. And we don't need to worry about the actual map anymore.
Right.
In fact, we're going to go back to here. So he runs back there, and she is also gone as well.
She's gone?
Yeah. Yeah.
God damn it.
So she was there when you teleported, but by the time you got back,
That was like seconds.
Yeah. Weird, right? And he's like, "Where is she?" And he gets to the door that's now busted into splinters, and he's like, Tyra, come back. And he can't yell terribly great.
That was I would like walk over to him and be like, "That was the mayor's daughter, wasn't it?"
"Yes, it was. Describe to me the man that was here."
He looked like a jackal, werewolf monster. He was quite big. Lots of teeth. Very scary.
And
yes.
He says,
He bit my friend here. Let's get that cleaned up.
He kind of looks and his face hardens, and he's like, that was Crag, the mayor's right hand.
Wait.
Her enforcer. If he was here, we're doomed. She knows I have it. And he kind of turns away and looks deeply into the fire. I didn't want to take it.
What do you have?
But I needed it. And you see him again clutching the side here.
What do you have, good sir? Let me help.
And he looks and he's like, No, yes. I can't.
That's why I'm here.
You can help. Those
I'm going to help.
shadow things. The children in the town, they must be in danger. And he kind of gets this bright look in his eye, and he turns to you and he says, You should go. The children have captured Tyra. I'm certain of it. And he has this weird glint in his eye, and you can hear this weird magic in his voice. His voice is enhanced by the magic, and he pulls out this stone that's the size of a large egg that's glowing green. And you can feel him compelling you to obey, to do what he says. So I'm going to have you do a wisdom saving throw. And you're feeling heavily compelled, like as soon as he kind of has this change. So you feel compelled, you're like, yes, this is a good idea. I need to go track those kids down. Now, one thing you just remember, and you are now enthralled, so you're kind of under his sway, at least for now. You'll have chances to break out of it, but you kind of hear his voice echo throughout, like kind of bounce around in your head, where he's like, go, find her. So you're kind of overtaken by this. And he says, go now.
Do you have something?
And your cat's just like,
yeah, I'm going to go, do you have something for my friend here? She's hurt.
And he says, he snaps his fingers and her wounds heal.
Thank you, sir. Let us go. And we just leave.
You leave. Yeah.
We're going to go out the back door, and we're going to look for tracks or any type of, tracks, any sign of this person leaving.
You see two pairs of tracks. One is that's leaving. You see the boots of the man coming up to the door, but leaving are these big monstrous kind of paw prints from the creature that it revealed itself to be. Then you see another set of prints, which are probably Tyra's. Right now you're kind of glancing at it. You're making some assumptions, so I'm not having you roll for it. But suddenly it gets about 10 paces out, and then suddenly they just disappear. They just as if they vanish into thin air.
Well.
And again, you hear this voice in your head saying, go, find the children. And you remember seeing what you thought to be kids chasing somebody across the rooftops.
Right, I'm going to go to that district for sure, so.
Okay.
That's what I'm doing.
So as soon as you hear that, you're just compelled, and almost as if you're in a dreamlike state, you make your way there. Now, do you want to go across the bridge and not try to ford the river once you get back into the city?
I'm not crossing that river, dude.
Okay. So it takes you about a half hour to 45 minutes to kind of get into the Okie Knockers district. And now you're mid-district, the Okie Knockers. So again, that's here. Oh, I didn't move to you, did I? I didn't. So that's right here. So this is kind of the southeastern, one of the southeastern districts, or southwestern, excuse me. So you make your way down there, and you're searching around, but you don't see anything that immediately pops out to you. Would you like to search or anything like that?
I'm going to see if I'm going to look at Cub and go, hey, will you get up there and check around up on the roofs, see if you see any signs of
Perfect.
Where we should go?
So give me I want you to use your perception, less hers is better, but do it with advantage, basically. So she's giving you a help action.
Don't worry about those two
Deception,
rolls.
huh? That's interesting.
That was an accident. I'm gonna roll from her.
Okay, that's fine.
And don't have a way of doing it at advantage on this sheet.
Just roll it twice.
Oh, it did it for me.
Mm-hmm. So 15 is what we'll do.
Yeah.
So after about another half an hour of searching, you're able to find what looks like this abandoned stone church almost. And here's our picture for this. So you come in and there are vines growing. Again, lots of rain means lots of plants and things growing. So if you're not taking care of the buildings, they get eaten up by vines and plants. And you come into this area kind of through this open room, and you can hear chanting coming somewhere deeper within this derelict building, let's say. And you're starting to get a pretty weird feeling as soon as you come into this space.
All right. Now I'm gonna definitely. Yeah, I'm gonna sneak. I'm sneaking. I'm not good at it, but
Cool.
I'm gonna creep in here.
Okay.
And have Cub is definitely gonna understand the role she plays in this situation because it seems risky, and she'll be a little bit in front of me.
Okay.
Just to kind of scout, but she doesn't really leave my like direct sight of like my line of sight.
Okay.
In new areas.
I'm going to add on the addition that she would know that you're kind of going into hunting, stalking mode. So she doesn't necessarily need to be told every single thing to do. She knows what to do like a hunting dog would.
Right. You want stealth?
I do, yes. I want stealth for you and her. Beautiful. Her stealth was 18, right?
I rolled a 10, and she rolled an 18. I rolled a 10.
So you're making a little bit of noise. There's a lot of debris on the ground, like pieces of stone and roots and vines kind of growing across the way where you need to walk. So you're making a little bit of noise, but she's being really stealthy, and so this chanting is kind of covering up any sound that whoever's in here might hear in the first place. So right now, you, as far as you can tell, you're pretty stealthy.
So I'm gonna go towards the sound, man. I'm going towards it.
So as you crawl farther and farther, what languages do you speak? Really quick.
I think I speak Orc, Giant, and Common.
Okay, so you hear some kind of dark speak. As you get closer, you start to hear certain words like Shadech, and you'll kind of hear this name said with reverence amongst other words that you just can't make out. You're not sure what they're saying, but it's definitely ritualized and rhythmic, and it seems to be building in intensity as they repeat these occult stanzas.
I'm gonna keep going towards it, I guess. Just sneak in until I can get a view of who's doing this and what's happening.
Okay. So you finally crawl down this hallway, and at the end of the hallway, there are various rooms. So this is almost like a corridor that are just kind of abandoned. Some of them look like they've been lived in, like maybe there were people here, but it's still very derelict. And then you start to see like firelight or candlelight at the end of this corridor. And as you sneak up to it, you come into kind of this open circular room, and you see a bunch of orphans or a bunch of kind of street kids. You're not sure if they're orphans or not, but they kind of look like this. Oh, that's the wrong thing. The kind of kids, they're all dirty. And you see Kellen, but he looks a little different. His eyes look a little more demonic. He looks a little less human, or even more kind of maybe demonically influenced. He doesn't look normal. He almost looks like he's drugged out. And around all these kids, as they're chanting, you see that shadowy substance, the same thing from the shadow creatures that attacked you earlier. And in the middle, tied down, is Tyra. So they're all chanting around her. And kind of coming out of her, you see this dark, shadowy force. And through kind of the cacophony, you keep hearing the name Shadak, Shadak, Shadak. And it's building in intensity.
All right, well, I need to understand a few things. So right when I come upon this, I understand what I'm seeing. Now, am I above them? Am I on the same level as them?
So the room that you're kind of at the threshold of, there's no door. It's kind of an open, like the hallway leads into kind of this main area, and it's kind of arena style. So it's a circular room, and there's kind of tiers where people could maybe sit, and then the center is kind of lower into the ground. So it's kind of tiered until you get into the center. So like it looks like a fighting pit or something like that.
And this little weird ritual is going on in the center.
The kids are kind of on the outskirts, and they're becoming more and more shadowy. And you do notice at the far end of the room, you see two bodies laying down.
All right. Well, I already know what Ursa would do.
Okay. Well, what does Ursa do?
Now that I have the details. Oh, Ursa, he does not like this at all. This is bad. These are kids. So he just screams, "What in the fuck?" and just starts running towards the front.
Okay.
To like stop whatever he thinks this is.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like so out of craziness to him. This is something out of one of his nightmares. It's so foreign.
Right.
It's, seriously something out of one of his nightmares. And he's pulled out a javelin and he has his hand on his great axe and he's seriously debating throwing it right at that kid.
At Kellen?
Yeah, he's debating it. He hasn't.
Okay.
But I'm running in like that.
Okay.
I do have a ready action that will trigger if something happens.
Gotcha. Okay.
I would like to, if that child does something towards me that's like an attack, so I'd obviously have to get hit, I'm going to turn the javelin and throw it so it would hit him, but not with a pointy end. It would hit him like with the side of it, like hitting him with a stick, like the side of it.
So you're kind of throwing it sideways at him?
Right. I'm like throwing it like that to just hit him. So non-lethal.
That's amazing. Okay.
And I'm throwing it all crazy.
Okay.
Yeah, only if he goes to like attack.
I gotcha.
No, fuck that. I'm going to go for the knockout anyway.
Before we do that, I want you to give me an intimidation check because you just harshed their mellow, as the kids say. So you come in, you're like, no. And so that's like, you may jolt them out pretty crazy.
What is it I'm rolling again? An intimidation.
Yeah, and you're going to do it at advantage because you have a giant cat with you who's also like going, rah, rah. Okay, so
that's an 8. I rolled an 18.
You startle all the children. They look at you because you're this random Goliath that comes out of nowhere. And then the shadowy creature in the middle dissipates. All the shadow kind of pairs off. And the kids are kind of stunned there looking at you. And Tyra in the middle, whose mouth is bound so she can't speak, she's like, and then Kellen in the middle looks at you and says, Ursa, you need to leave. And his eyes still are kind of like, you know how in animes when there's a character who's really crazy, their eyes are kind of bulging and they're twitching a little bit? That's what his eyes are doing. So they're really big as if he's hopped up on some kind of drug. And you see he's got that same dagger that in this context looks very ritualistic now. And he's just holding it there. And he's looming above Tyra. And you can tell that he's not himself right now.
Yeah, I'm hitting him in the head with that non-lethal spear. I'm just going to go, huh.
Go ahead and roll. So you roll it as an attack, but we're not going to do lethal damage with it. 25 definitely hits. So 10, again, it's going to be bludgeoning, but we're going to make this contested because we're not in combat. So
Cool.
as you throw, the Kellen who's not Kellen right now goes to move out of the way. So we're going to go from your attack roll. So he does, you're just like, you're too fast, and he tries to move out of the way, and you hit him right in the head, you knock him out. And all the kids around you go, and then you start whispering, oh my God. And you've still got Tyra in the middle going,
I'm going to go and I'm going to pull her, break all of her bondings and help her up and go, oh, what is happening right now?
And she rips the thing off and she says, this all goes back to my mother, the mayor, but we don't have time for this. And as she's going to explain this to you, you hear the voice of the Wicker in your head going, kill them. Kill them all. And you can tell he means all the children, not Tyra. So I want you to give me a wisdom saving throw.
That's a 10.
Okay. So as she's talking to you, Tyra sees that you're under the sway of something, and she slaps you right in the face. And she says, hey! And that kind of knocks you out of it, and suddenly his voice disappears. You can kind of feel that there's something ticking around in the back of your mind, but it kind of snaps you out of it temporarily. And she looks at you and she says, Did the Wicker do something to you? Did Gemma do something to you?
He must have. I feel his voice in my head.
And she's like, God damn it. We don't have time. We'll get back to that later. And she begins to tell you about how this is actually to do with her mother and Kellen and this feud that's been going on. But she's like, first, we need to help these kids. They are being threatened by a dark presence. We need to get them out of here.
Do we kill them? That's what he was telling me, to kill them.
No, we don't kill them. They're kids. They're
That's
innocent.
what I thought. I was confused.
Yes, he did something to you. Now, come on. So you start to bring all the children out of this derelict building. And you
Come with me, children.
Yes. And you take them back to Gwen's house because that's where you know to go. And Tyra is like, we can't go to the mayor's house right now. That's not going to work. So you bring the kids into Gwen's house, and she starts to give them warm drinks and starts to make them food. And
how many of them are there?
There's like 12 of them. There's a ton of them.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it's a big gang of them. And they are safe for the time being. And so that is where the session officially ends, because you resolved one of the things that I had. I had a few things where I'm like, if this happens, this is where the session ends.
Okay.
But as an epilogue, basically, Tyra tells you that her mother, the mayor, basically made some bad dealings, and she's been trying to get a hold of this stone that you've been hearing about. And so Tyra's been trying to prove that her mother is behind this, because you've been hearing some rumors as well that the original mayor Humphrey, was murdered. And so after that, his wife took power. And so she's been trying to prove that trying to find proof that this happens, because she knows deep in her heart soul that it happens. So she's been going to the Wicker for help. And now the kids got a hold of this stone it gives you power. So like they could make food with it, and they could, since Humphrey's demise, their food has been very scarce. It's been hard earnings, but it's started to twist them and make them into dark things. And now the Wicker has it. So she's like, there's more to do, but that can wait. Dun,
nice.
Dun, dun. So that's the end of the session right there.
It was good. I'm excited to hear about
planning?
yeah, like not even just the planning, but like how I did things where you're like, oh, this is how it's going. Okay.
Right.
I had fun. That was not anything like I expected at all.
Right.
And then things started happening, and I was like, God damn it, am I gonna have to kill a child? Eric's gonna make me kill a kid on a podcast.
Right.
God damn it.
Yeah.
And then it played out differently, and I don't know. I'm excited to hear. And yeah, there's a lot of things that also happened that were not part of my character when I started at all.
Right. You discovered as you went.
Oh yeah, 100%. So I don't know. How do you want to roll this?
Well, you can talk about your experience, or if you want me just to get into like my planning, I can go straight to there.
Yeah, I think as a player I'll talk about what I experienced as a player.
Sure. Do it.
First of all, Ursa became a lot more of an endearing person, a much more caring individual than I intended him to be.
Right.
But it seemed, as I kept thinking about him, if he grew up with that cat, he would be someone that had an understanding of compassion and caring, because he's always had this friend, and that's something that would teach you. Having those types of relationships growing up usually will teach you how to care.
Right.
It's kind of weird to say, but
no, it makes sense for sure.
It's so hard to say. Just so many things. It was a very visual campaign, not even with like the stuff you'd shown, but like I felt more of a character in the world. Like I felt like I was playing a character. And I was like, oh, this is cool. I feel like I'm getting information in a good way, so I'm allowed to let this character breathe and like go, oh, I want to do this. This is what I feel like Ursa would do. I loved the troll. I felt like it was here's a stab at something. I felt like it was like, oh, Mr. Friendly 2.0, but this guy's cool.
Right.
Mr. Friendly sucks.
Right.
That's only because he fell asleep. He was cool.
He did fall asleep. He fell asleep when
he
he
was
said
great.
He'd be our night watch.
Yeah, he was great until he fucked us.
Yeah.
And with NPCs and my characters, if you fuck me, dude, I hate you.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Yeah, it's true.
I'm in a primal wild land. I don't need to give a shit. You fuck me, I'll kill you or something. I don't know.
Right.
Depends. Anyway, Ursa was very also different. Eric can attest to this than any other character that I've played.
It's true.
I normally play very aggressively selfish people. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I thought that was a cool choice for sure. It was interesting.
Yeah, I liked the interaction with the troll. I liked that a lot. That was fun. Especially when he was like, "Oh, you don't have to pay." I was like, "Oh, I like this guy.
He's giving me benefits.
He feels friendly. Like I've established a relationship over a few days. If he's like, oh, this guy, I like him." Then trying to chase after the kid a little bit, I was like, should I even try this? Sure, let's give it a shot. That was fun. And it also felt, when I made the choice to not pursue it, I was like, there's going to be a consequence. Like I knew not pursuing that, there was going to, like, it felt real. I was like, I have to make the call to not pursue that. I'm going back to what I was doing.
Yeah.
So that felt dynamic and fun.
Nice.
I didn't know, like, again, it was one of those things like, I don't know, because I also started caring about my familiar, because I was like, this is not a magical familiar. This is a living creature that if it dies during this, that will be super brutal. So I got super like worried about that. And so I transferred that to the character rather.
Nice. That's good.
That's why he went running back in during the fight to find his friend, because his friend wasn't with him. And he looked over and saw the old dude was handling it. So he's like, oh, I know what needs to be done.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, it felt very. Yeah, to me, it felt like there was a lot that was really happening. If that makes sense,
It does.
like
Yeah.
I could have made other choices and not been there
Mm-hmm.
when that guy got there, and there would have been no one home, or he would have been inside. It's hard to say when I would have got to that place if
Right.
I would have gotten.
Right.
So yeah, it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed
Nice.
it quite
I'm
a
glad
bit,
you liked it.
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I liked how there was a little bit of combat, so I was able to like do that wild surge, because it's like this is
Mhm.
cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then after I did it, I was like, I'm glad I don't have to do that again. That was enough for me. I like doing this other
Right,
stuff.
right.
I like investigating. I like playing off of roles, trying to figure out what to do. I like a lot of that lately because
Yeah. Yeah.
a lot of combat for me lately has just been like, okay.
It gets monotonous if not handled with care, I feel like.
Right. And it's, as individual moments, combat's great, but like, this has happened a few times, and I'm sure it happens in campaigns all the time where you get into these moments where it's 5 sessions of like these crazy huge battles, and I'm just like, I just want this to be done.
Right.
I just want the battle over. It's been 9-10 hours of fighting. I'm done fighting. I want to pretend I'm someone else.
Right.
So yeah, that's engaging in something we've talked about, those pillars of play. Right now, I definitely feel that role play pillar. Like I really want to lean into those moments. So this one really scratched that itch for me.
Nice. That's cool. We forgot to do this last session. Not that it matters, but it's fun to do. We'll just award it now. So take 5,000 experience. You get extra because you diffuse things without killing a bunch of people. So I wanted to have different options. You could fight and resolve things, but if you could do it peacefully, that was better, or minimal harm. A few kids still got killed, but that's just how it goes.
They died. Some kids died?
I told you that because remember 2 of the shadows.
Oh,
you
the
killed,
bodies?
and then you saw the bodies in the back.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. That's why I warned before we start. I'm like, look, listeners, this might get heavier. I don't know, because I don't know what Ian's going to do. So, and I will explain. I will reveal all for this because there's a bunch of stuff that we didn't even cover, which I knew would happen. I just didn't know what it would be. So, characters you didn't even meet, that kind of thing.
Right.
So,
oh yeah, that's crazy. I knew when you said the 2 bodies, but my character didn't associate that to what I had done. What it associated it to was whatever this kid's doing, he's killing people, he's sacrificing them, and this person's next.
Right.
So, yeah, that's brutal.
Nice. Not nice but nice. I'm glad you liked the one shot.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a good fun time for me.
Good fun. Okay. So I'm not going to go through all my planning because I did tons of planning and it was very chaotic. So I'm going to give a little more structure. I'm going to tell a story about my planning. Let's put it that way. I started like I usually do with just a concept, which was essentially like I knew Ian was going to do a barbarian, and I was like, let's do fish out of water. Let's put him in a position that barbarians, you don't build a barbarian to solve mysteries most of the time. And I was like, that's funny. Not even knowing you were going to do a Goliath as your ancestry. Right. So that was even better. Just like huge, kind of kind, caring barbarian. I was like, yes, this is great.
That for some reason just stumbles into investigating like magical things. And he's just like, I don't know.
Yeah. And I don't always do this, but I was like, I need to name this town. So I started getting this idea for this city for the barbarian to adventure in. And I was like, ooh, something dark and rainy and moody. Something different to juxtapose what you did on your session, which was like cool, classic, fantasy. I was like, I want something that's a little farther technologically, more 1700s, in a world that we know nothing about. It doesn't matter. We're just in this other world. There's some kind of war, and there's something where the sun doesn't come up once a year, kind of like the winter solstice. That came much later, but that's all we know about the world. And then I started coming up with details like, well, no, I came up with the name Cooper. I was like, well, what does this city do? How did it become a city? What was its function? I was like, well, maybe let's look up some words. What's a cool name? What does Cooper mean? Oh, those are people who make barrels. What if this was a place, it was, built around a river where they would build a bunch of barrels and ship them off, and that kind of thing. So everything was kind of built up around that. So that was my city. And then I was like, I don't want to do a one-shot that's a railroad one-shot. I want it to be basically a sandbox one-shot that can still resolve. And so I'm like, I'm going to give Ian 3 kind of paths, and they all intersect. They're all intertwined, and there's certain things that are going on. And he, depending upon what he does, that will be the story, like your choices. And so I came up with these factions. You have the mayor, you have the Wicker, and you have this gang of kids. And that was the 3 factions. And essentially the storyline I came up with, just kind of after I sent Ian a little blurb so he would have some flavor, just here's the general ballpark, which got changed. But I was like, what if all the men were gone? Like, kind of like World War II, like women had to start going into the workforce because there were no men. They had to take care of things. So this is a city run by the women now. And again, that juxtaposes Ian's character, where he's like this huge dude walking around. And we didn't really get to it, but, I was going to have like a lot of the NPCs just kind of stare at you as you walk down the street, because you really stick out. And that was also going to be kind of a adventure hook, because since you're a man in this society, people are going to assume certain things like, oh, maybe I can hire him to do this thing. Maybe really innocuous, like, oh, he'll lift my crates, or, oh, he'll go beat this person up, or whatever it is. So the story I ended up coming up with after some drafts was the mayor's wife, Beatrice, who you never met, which that I figured that would probably most likely happen, and that was the one that didn't happen.
That's funny.
She was really hungry for power, and she was seduced, and I'll tell you by what in a little bit, because there's some backstory. And so she arranged for her husband to be killed, and she took his place. So she became mayor by assassination. And the assassin was her right-hand man who you met. That was the guy that's actually a demon who was trying to kidnap Tyra.
Right, that asshole guy.
Yeah, and Tyra was really close with Humphrey, was the mayor's name, and he took care of the orphans of the city, and he was he did a lot of good for the city. And so basically I'll step back and say, now, one thing I came up with was, what if this city had a patron demon that influenced the city, and this demon just wanted to create chaos, but he wanted to do it in a specific way where he was making people suspicious of each other and more violent towards one another, and especially the kids, they're more susceptible to this influence. So when you first come into the city, that's what you feel, is like, oh, this place is weird, like something's going on. So, and here's my weird spin. Are you ready for the weirdness?
Yeah.
So the way that, and the Beatrice didn't know this, but the demon set it up because the assassin that was hired was actually an agent for the demon. He killed the mayor in such a way that the mayor's soul was trapped in this stone called the Weirding Stone, where it gives you certain things. So it makes you more charismatic. You get a +5 to your charisma modifier, which is what the Wicker had. It's like
that stone, that glowing green thing.
The glowing green
talking
thing.
about.
Yeah. So that was the Weirding Stone. And so what happens is that the soul is in here, and each time a power is used, the soul is degraded a little bit. So you've only got so much, and then you have to put more into it. And then the demon gave it to the copper skulls, which was the gang of kids that you found that were all corrupted.
Right.
And so they had it for a long time, and rumor of this stone's power grew and grew. And of course, the mayor she wanted it for herself. So she hired the Wicker to steal it, which he did. But what happens when you touch this thing is you have to make a saving throw, or else you become enthralled by the stone. And you basically love this object more than life itself. So I'm like, Ian might get enthralled by the stone. I don't know. I'm going to leave clues that this is bad news. But if he just picks it up and has to make this saving throw, there's nothing I can do about that. So you didn't actually even get to that point. But once he touched it, he was like, everything else doesn't matter. I'm keeping this stone for myself. And the orphans, the gang of kids, were already suspicious about the mayor killing Humphrey because they loved Humphrey. So they already had it out for her. So this was kind of the breaking point for them, because this was like how they made food from this. And the main kid, Kellen, actually also got affected by the stone. So he had the same need to have this stone in his possession all the time. And it makes you fidgety how you kept seeing the Wicker kind of check his belt all the time. Yeah. So, he's very fidgety. So they make a last-ditch deal with the demon to for power, give them power and they will serve him. So they are like, they've had enough, and they go to, they kidnap the mayor's daughter, and then they go to get the stone back. And then you kind of come in and mess up the plans, and you actually diffused it pretty well. I thought that was cool. Like you didn't stop things permanently. Things are still bad, but you stopped them from becoming permanent thralls for him.
Oh, when I stumbled into that room, it was like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Yep. So you put a stop to that. And that was one of the things. I was like, okay, the things resolve if he stops the ritual, and we need to figure out what happens with Tyra. That was one of the things. And also, if you do something with the stone, like if you keep it, you're like, I'm keeping this. Okay. That's the end of the session. Like, you found it and you can leave, Right. So my hooks were that depending upon who you went to, I did like a little T-biffs for each major NPC, but the mayor was going to hire you to find her daughter. But really that was a cover because she still wants the stone. The Wicker just wants to keep the stone. So he was going to try to sick you on the other two. And then the orphans were going to be more honest with you, like if you went to them first. But I had clocks running, so like the way it worked, you were in the market long enough that I had this Tyra escapes clock. So she escapes from being kidnapped and goes to the Wicker. And so when you got to the Wicker's house, she was there, but I didn't just decide that on the moment. That was actually a counting clock. That's how it went down.
Oh.
So that was my basic kind of layout for all the stuff you could do, essentially. And then the planning was like getting maps. I think I got rid of my checklist, but getting maps and finding art and making sure that I had clues for each area that you were in. So when you were at the Wicker's house, there were certain things you could find out. If you went to the kids' hideout, if you went to the Copper Skulls hideout, there were certain things you could find out, because I followed the 3 clue rule, which means everywhere your players go, there should be 3 clues that they can find and like kind of glean things about. And right. The woman who walked up as you were leaving the house, that was actually an adventure hook for you, but you're like, I'm just going to kind of keep walking and listen. I was like, okay. Like that. Sweet. So she was going to actually take you to the mayor. And
oh, really?
Yeah, you were going to have a conversation. I had the mayor's mansion, and she was going to put on this whole dog and pony show, and you would have seen her assassin there, like hanging out.
Really?
So yeah, Crag. So it could have gone totally differently in terms of who you met. And then I knew Tyra, if she survived, she would kind of be your ally, and you would get advantage on like if you had picked up the stone and she was with you, she could have helped you snap out of it or gave you advantage and those kind of things because she was hip to it.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's just really this kind of doomed city that you stumbled into, and I wanted it to have relationships and depending upon who you kind of joined up with, which you didn't really join up with anybody. It was interesting. You took this fourth option again.
Right, where I just was like, I'm doing this.
Yeah, but if you had sided with a faction, that would have changed other factions' opinions of you. So if you had joined the Orphans, the mayor would have thought differently of you, and the Wicker would have thought differently of you, and tried to use you in a different way.
Right.
So I had that. I had the clues keyed. I had rumors. So when you were in the market, that's what I rolled for rumors, and I had some that were completely false, some that were somewhat true, some false, and then some that were mostly true or all the way true, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's what I did. There's tons more details, like I had adjectives, and one thing I kind of discovered about building NPCs I thought was cool was doing their T-biffs. So for instance, like their ideals, I just did a little quote for each character. Like, this is kind of what they believe about the world. And then I put S instead of just having T-biffs be like, your plural. So it was ideals, bonds, traits, bonds, ideals, flaws, and secrets. So I gave each major NPC a secret, something in their past, something they were holding on to that you could also glean or would affect their character. So for instance, what is his name? I always forget. Sterling.
Sterling.
His ideal was helping people as my business. So when you were low on money, I looked at kind of his personality. I'm like, oh, he would totally, like, he cares about people. So he'd be like, oh, don't worry about it. So I didn't just make a snap judgment. I actually planned enough where I'm like, I had an idea of how the character would react. And I went deep on all the NPCs pretty much. I even did kind of a profile on what is this arc, what is the patron demon doing? And if you had if you had solved it slower, like if more time had passed, like you went back to the boarding house for a little bit, like, you could have, things would have went down where the bonfire was in the square and things like that. Okay. So yeah, in summary, that's the planning I did. So I went really deep on, and I didn't realize how RP based it was going to be until we played, even though that seemed silly because I focused a lot on the NPCs and the environment. But I didn't really think about it. I was just like, I want to have lots of different stuff going on, and I wanted to have that feel of like, oh wow, this decision matters. Like things are moving, and I'm kind of in the middle of this thing that's already churning forward. Right. So
it's almost different than a video game because you get a chance to go do all of the things that you can affect in a video game. But in this, it was like, nope, this is where you went. All of that other shit happened and you weren't there.
Yeah, there's no exclamation mark above the head waiting for you.
Yeah. And it's, it can get confusing at times, role playing and doing these things because, don't get me wrong, there's many a time where I've been playing a game where I'm like, I literally have no idea what to do next.
Right.
Like, I don't even know what I should even try to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are other times where you're like, oh, I'm doing this for sure.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't mean I succeeded, but I was really conscious of that since it was a one shot. So I'm like, I want to have tons of clues all over the place. I want things to have the chance to pop up multiple times, be very high. I want that, I want a good chance that you're going to hear about this weird stone. You're going to hear about demonic influence in different ways that might be emergent, but it's going to come out so you're not completely like out of the loop. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
well, definitely rumors and even that plot hook that I kind of went by at the beginning, the little whispers I heard, it was enough to make me go, oh, okay. So that fucking mayor's daughter's somewhere around. Just little tiny things that made me go,
Right. Yeah. And I was like, it was a really interesting reaction. Again, couldn't predict it. I was like, oh, wow. He's like, because she was hunched over because she's trying to be like quiet, you know, and then you're like, okay, well, this seems private, so I'm just going to eavesdrop instead. I was like, oh, all right, sweet. There you go. So
There's a part of me that was going to get involved, but I was like, no, Ursa's going to get his food. He wants to know about this Wicker that he's heard about.
And again, Wicker, I thought that was the least likely choice. I was like, that's cool if he goes. That'll be really interesting. But I'm like, he probably won't because he's outside the city. I've got to really find ways to mention him. But you're like, nope, beeline in it. I was like, sweet.
We're going to the Wicker.
Yeah. So yeah, I had a lot of fun making thinking about the relationship between NPCs, and like these people were all heavily involved in each other's lives. And the biggest thing, I think the biggest weakness for me on this was like having to wrap too much at the end an explanation where it's like, oh, well, because you didn't do all this other stuff and we're doing a one shot, here's a bunch of info. So, you know, doing another one shot, making sure that things can wrap up in play is my kind of takeaway on how to make it better next time, you know?
Nice.
So,
yeah, I had a good time.
Sweet.
And I mean, what else is there? Did you have a good time?
I had a great time. I was really excited. I got super stoked about this, and we haven't talked about this yet, but I haven't been the biggest fan. This is totally going to seem off topic, but it matters. It connects. I haven't been the biggest fan of Critical Role. I've tried to watch it, and it was never my speed. But Campaign 3 has just started, and it's really good. I really like it a lot.
Oh, it's so good.
And I was kind of inspired by the way that Mercer describes his characters and the voices he does. And so I tried to do more, not copy him, but be more descriptive and do more voices and be willing to take more risks. So that's one thing I focused on, was like taking more risks and that kind of thing.
Right.
So.
Well, there is an aspect to at least for how we have to play being a part like this, like even like with our main groups, there's something about the way that Critical Role is played where it's a lot of it is theater of the mind, and a lot of that involves, you know, acting the character out, which some people don't want to do that. That's fine.
Right.
But what I'm saying is most things don't really, like, it's very theater of the mind, and the distances and descriptions aren't, I mean, well, descriptions are, but distances aren't as important. Little things where you just get to say, well, this is what we're trying. And you go, okay, well, it's this big. How are you going to overcome that?
Yeah.
And you know, I like that.
So do I.
And then when it's like, oh, it's time for battle, here's a cool battle map, or here's just a drawing because we're just in the middle of this. Here's tokens. How are we doing this? Still standing in that room of theater of the mind, but now we need something that's a little bit more minutia for combat.
Right.
And then once that's done, going back to, I for playing online like we do, I really, really like that style.
Yeah.
I feel like it's easier to control. It's a little bit more open.
Right.
And that might be why I love the whole Blades in the Dark thing now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love that they've found a way to do combat that's non-tactical. So their combat in Blades of the Dark is the same thing, where it's theater of the mind, and it really works well. And so it would be fun to have both options as a DM for any game I'm playing, where I'm like, you know, I want this battle to be more theater of the mind, and then this other battle more tactical, because how you set those things up can say a lot to your players about what to focus on and what's important at this phase of the session or the campaign, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
So, but I agree. And, so I try to do more of that. The thing that I found I really like about people doing more of a character and adding a voice to said character is I feel like I learn more about the characters just by them kind of acting as the character. Instead of saying things about the character, the way they say it, the tone of voice, the way they react to the world around them in character tells me more. I get more information, more bang for your buck, I guess is a way to say it.
Right.
You know?
And again, it comes with the group and how you want to play. It's not a necessary thing, but
No,
I will tell you, once you start doing it,
it's fun.
it's really fun.
And it's addicting. You're like, I want to do that better. I want to get
I want
better
to keep
doing
improving that, because even with me using a voice, I definitely felt like I mostly stayed as him, but there were times where I was like, what does he sound like again?
Right.
Because I really didn't put too much thought into that aspect. But going forward in our like campaigns that we play with our friends and stuff, I'm really excited to try these other things we're doing with other people being the DMs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really excited to try that a bit more.
For sure.
It's going to be fun.
It's going to be super fun. So the one thing procedure-wise, like, okay, how do you actually do this thing that I really nailed down was just NPC creation. And this is just for me. So I'll give this little, because that's, I know everything I've been saying is a little vague in terms of, yeah, I worked on this and then I did this. Well, okay. If I'm a listener and I don't know anything, I'm probably going to be like, okay, well, what does that mean? So for NPCs, I found like, okay, you give them a name, give them a look. So just what's a way I can describe this person quickly? Give them a demeanor. So like, how do they hold their body? What's something unique about them? What is their voice? So like, for instance, Gwen, I just put sing-songy, light Irish accent. Just something I can look at quick. And then the T-biffs. And again, T-biffs including now, and I'll probably do this all the time, adding a secret. So like, for instance, this is a secret, doesn't matter to the story, but I thought it was cool. Gwen is secretly attracted to the baker down the street, though she'd never admit it to anybody. So just a little thing about her that gives her a little more depth. So that's the one thing where I'm like, that for me nails a way that I can make NPCs quickly and I know it'll be what I want it to be. So that worked really well.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah.
That is just one part of the nitty-gritty that Eric's talking about.
Yep.
That's boring to talk about, but we'll touch on little things like that throughout when we do these types of things. And just let us know again if you like it, if you don't like it, if you have questions, please ask us.
Right.
We definitely plan on having some of our friends come and do this, people that have never done it.
Mm-hmm.
Just to give you an idea of, if you've never done it, what does that look like? How would that person's thing? How did they do this? Because it's all a whole learning experience. So hearing someone talk about that and we'll see.
And I think that we haven't really talked about this on an episode yet, but our philosophy is kind of that, if this is your first time on Philomythia, you have to DM. That's kind of that's not a hard fast rule, but we want to kind of get people hooked on this product, essentially. Like, try it out, see if you like it. You've never done it, that's okay. Like, we're a really forgiving audience. Like, we're big supporters of people trying it out, and even if they feel like they didn't do a great job, like taking that risk,
Yeah, for sure. So it's fun. I'm excited.
And I think with some of these things, not today, but as we go along, it'd be really fun to do like, hey, let's do a building series where, let's build an NPC. Hey, let's build a min-max character. Like, we don't have to do every detail, but let's go through some of these things so people have some examples, listeners have some examples of how you actually do the thing again,
Yeah.
So
I'm into it.
So I really loved going through one-shots. I feel like I learned a lot just about the planning process because I constantly had to think, don't expand this anymore. You've got one session. Don't do that. So certain things I would have done differently if it was a longer session, like Tyra, how long she was before she escaped,
right?
Or letting things play out. Like, you could go to the Wicker's house once and talk to him and it's weird, but nothing crazy happens. So I definitely upped how quickly things would happen to give it more of a flow over one session. So.
Yeah, for sure. And that was something I thought about too as we were doing. I was like, as we're playing, I was like, man, this place feels so in depth. Did he plan, like, is there too much? And then as I'm like playing, I realized while we're doing, I'm like, no, it's not like that there's too much to do. He's just put a lot into what I'm experiencing.
Like I said, I was like, bro, I overplanned. Like, it was so fun. Like, I got so excited. I just went super deep on everything.
Yeah, it's good. I had a blast. It definitely created a world that I felt like I was, but I didn't feel like I was stuck doing anything. I felt like I could turn and switch and do like whatever I needed to at the time.
That's awesome. That's what I want to hear. That's what I was going for. Right. So I guess that was
successful. I literally just did what I thought my guy would do. Yeah. I was like, he doesn't want to listen in on that conversation.
He wants breakfast.
He's hungry.
He wants to make some money.
His buddy is cold and wet, and this is the only place that we're like, oh, who sent the letter? That's what I want to know. Who sent the note?
The demon sent the letter.
That's terrible.
Yeah, I know. Because again, he's kind of pulling the strings. For instance, he put the weirding stone. He just kind of placed that in the hands of those kids and just let them kind of run amok. So he's like, this will be chaotic. But then it kind of worked against him. So
it's awful.
Yeah.
Well, are we?
I think that's it. I mean, I could go into more detail, but I think I've explained what I did pretty well.
Well, yeah, if we get questions and people like this stuff, then we'll dive in deeper next time on this kind of stuff. Indeed. If you don't like it, then that's fine. A bummer.
Yeah. And again, some people may not like the actual play. I think eventually we'll make the actual play stuff, even for regular episodes, we'll make that a separate thing that releases on Wednesdays or something. So just be patient with us while we're experimenting and seeing what's happening. You don't have to love or listen to every episode, although we hope you do, but you don't have to. So one thing I will say, I'll leave it with this. If we were going to play this world again with this character, the next episode would be you and Tyra trying to track down the stone and then dealing with that. So it's like, well, that's what would happen naturally next. That kind of thing.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, everybody, stay sweaty.
Stay sweaty. And use force damage. Oh, hey. Listeners, you've made it to the end. Give yourself a prize. Maybe a little cupcake or some coffee or hot chocolate, This is the credits, and we have links to all the things. So check down below and you'll see things to the link tree, and the link tree links to the other links, and there's links to be had. Also, Jerry did our music. It's super badass. If you want to check out all his stuff, we have a link to that too. It's on SoundCloud. So remember to roll high and take a point of inspiration. Like, share, subscribe.